Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Shri Radha Madhava ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for playing mridanga and playing kartals. Hari Bol. So we are reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam today, continuing in the 4th canto, 8th chapter, text number 28. Very good. And the story tells, yesterday you were here in the Bhagavatam lecture? Yes? You also were here? No? Chaitanya Charitamrita, yeah. But you were in class. Okay. So maybe you don't know, we're reading the story of Dhruva Maharaj. So it's dealing about small children. How old are you? 8 years old. So he was smaller, even he was 5 years old. So it's about the child who's 5 years old and who is attaining the supreme perfection within only 1 month. So that's a very interesting story. Let's hear about it. We are reading 4th canto, 8th chapter, text number 28. Vikalpe? 27, okay. 27. Nadada uvacha Nadhunapi avamanam te Nadunapi avamanam te Samanam vapi putraka Samanam vapi putraka Lakshayama kumarasya Lakshayama kumarasya Shaktasya kridanadishu Shaktasya kridanadishu Nadada uvacha Nadunapi avamanam te Samanam vapi putraka Lakshayama kumarasya Saktasya krida nadishu. Prabhus. Narada uvacha Nadunavamanamte Nanupi avanamte Samanam vapi aputraka Lakshayama kumarasya Shaktasya kridadanishu. Matajis. Narada uvacha Nadunapi avamanamte Samanam vyapi putraka Lakshayama kumarasya Shaktasya kridadanishu. Narada uvacha Nadunapi avamanamte Samanam vapi putraka Lakshayama kumarasya Shaktasya kridadanishu. Narada uvacha. The great sage Narada said, Na, not. Adhuna, just now. Api, although. Avamanam, insult. Te, unto you. Samanam, offering respects. Va, or. Api, certainly. Putraka, my dear boy. Lakshayamana, I can see. Kumarasya, of boys like you. Shaktasya, being attached. Kridana adisu, to sports and frivolities. Frivolity is very old English words. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The great sage Narada told Dhruva, my dear boy, you are only a little boy whose attachment is to sports and other frivolities. Why are you so affected by words insulting your honor? Purport. Ordinarily, if a child is rebuked as a rascal or fool, he smiles and does not take insulting words very seriously. Similarly, if words of honor are offered, he does not appreciate them. But in case of Dhruva Maharaj, the Kshatriya spirit was so strong that he could not tolerate a slight insult from his stepmother, which injured his Kshatriya prestige. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Vedamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantara Dakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Piye Vanchakalpataru Visha Kripa Sindhube Vasha Patitanam Bhavanivyo Vaishnavivyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Kadamba Karuna Swamini Iti Namani. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Gurudas Chaitveita Swamini Iti Namani. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Iti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nivishesha Sandhyavari Paskatari Deshatarine. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. There's a lid you can open and then you can plug in the HDMI. Yeah. Yes. There should be 2 more. Found it? There's another one. Then. And then once you're ready, you can hit the record button. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So these prayers we are chanting is to invoke auspiciousness and gratitude to the teachers who have been before us, who has given us this knowledge so that we can understand them. If we do not honor our teachers, we will not have the blessings so that we can learn. We know this also from school. If the teacher likes you, he will tell you some secrets, some little tricks and tips how to deal better. And a similar way, it's in spiritual life even more. You just press on the screen. You don't need to autofocus. Yeah. Okay. And now you hit record button. You hit? It's red. Okay, and it's recording. Great. Then, if we get the blessings of the teacher, then we get the eligibility to understand the wisdom. Like when we distribute books, we say you give a donation so that you have the eligibility to understand this wisdom. So we get the blessings of the teacher. In a similar way, we chant these prayers, Om Agyan Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya, I have born in the darkest region of ignorance, so that we can, but by the mercy of you, my spiritual master, I've come to the light to understand the wisdom, real knowledge. In a similar way, I'm sitting here and asking for your blessings to be able to speak. Hare Krishna. So the verse says, my dear boy, you're only a little boy whose attachment is to sport and frivolities. Why are you so affected by words insulting your honor? So the point I want to put light on or enhance is the point of attachment, because we all have attachments in our life. And to some way or another, these attachments actually are binding us or are liberating us. Especially in Krishna consciousness, we understand that the right attachment can bring us very much forward, and the wrong attachments can sink us down. So we can understand what is actually attachment. And you can think yourself for a minute, what am I attached to? So for man, there's different things. You can be attached to family, to circumstances, to your respect in society, to something that you have, something that you don't have. And attachment is defined in a way in relation to desires, that attachment is the repeated desire of something that you, in one point, start identifying with. So you have a desire. I compare desires like a river, which continues to flow. You have so many desires coming up. You see something. Oh, this is a nice smell. I want to smell this. Oh, there's light. I want to see the light. Oh, there is a boy. I want to play with him, have fun. Or there is a board. I want to draw something on it. There are so many desires. There's a river of desires passing through our lives. And then out of those, some keep reoccurring. And those which keep reoccurring, in one point, we become very much attached to them and saying, this is what I want, very, very, very much, very intense desire. And then this desire not only becomes something that you really, really want, but it becomes part of yourself. You say, yes, this is me, this is my attachment. And on top of that, then actually, if this attachment intensifies, we actually build our false ego, what we call ahankara. Our false identity with the body. I am a German, I'm from here, I'm from there. So this is the wrong identification with the body, with the self, which comes due to attachment. We are attached to something. So, and Narada was here very much astonished why this little boy, who's usually there attached to playing, doing nonsense, but he was attached to his honor, which is, like for a 5-year-old, quite elevated, you know. A 5-year-old be attached, like, you insulted me, you know, I will meditate and go to the forest. It's quite something. So he was very much offended by it. And of course, he was offended because he had some attachment. First of all, if you don't have any attachment, then you cannot be offended. So, but he was offended. But Narada was astonished because his being offended was on a higher level. So that's already, on a human perspective, seen the attachment to honor and prestige is already very elevated, quite a good way to be attached to, but not the best. There's still it's in Rajas, the kings, and they're still in Raja Guna. No, they're attached to their prestige. Brahmanas are not so much attached to it. They're humble and meek. But he, as a Kshatriya, he was very much attached to it. And Narada Muni saw there's some spark. So this is the duty of a teacher. This he sees the spark, the little spark in a disciple who has a good quality, and he fans it. It's like, wow, Charu is so eager to hear. Let's give him lots of things to hear. What's your name? Ninad. Vinad.
No, we call him
Peanut. And your name? Dhruv. Your name is Dhruv. I like the story here. Wow, very good. So we have everybody here, huh? So the amazing thing is that if the teacher sees a spark, then he can kindle the spark and fire the spark so that it can grow to a bigger fire and then direct it in the right way. So Dhruva Maharaj was just insulted, which is a common thing. Okay, for a small boy, 5-year-old, maybe something special, but his determination was special, that he didn't seek refuge in direct force or vengeance, but he sought refuge in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said, I will go to the forest and I want to see God and I want to ask him for revenge. And my revenge will be that I want to have a bigger kingdom than my father. And my great-grandfather even. Yes. Huh? You know the story, yes, but I'm telling you in a very special way today. So that he wants to have a greater kingdom. And he was not deterred by the fear of going all alone into the forest or being all alone there without any shelter. So he had a very strong focus. And Narada Muni saw this and gave him the right mantra, right instructions, so he can actually achieve his goal. And he achieved it, which is amazing, which I think sometimes, why cannot we do like Dhruva Maharaj, sit there, it's quite productive, Within 1 or 3 months, we have this firm determination. Yeah. But not all of us have this determination, and we are also not as qualified. But of course, we can try and aspire to follow in the footsteps. So back to the attachment. So he was very much not attached to sports and frivolities. He was more attached to different things. So we can understand what is that in my life which I am attached to, which is actually not so helpful in my life. Very many things which we think, this is actually not something that I can support, or that I actually like being attached to. Because sometimes it happens that we are attached to things that we actually don't want to be attached to. And then to renounce those elevates us to get to the right attachment, which is, of course, Krishna consciousness, devotees, sadhu sangha, things that elevate ourselves. And we know that. That's very funny that we know both sides. We know the side that actually we are attached to these things which are not good for us, and we're doing them daily, some spacing out, doing this, doing that. And then we have good things which are very nice, reading, hearing good lectures, chanting nice japa. There are different things which are very productive and also which satisfy the self very much. But which we then, in the end, put them even behind sometimes, those things which we are attached to but we don't actually like. But why are we attached to them? Because they give immediate pleasure. Just like you have the immediate pleasure button, you just press it and then it's like, it's happening. You're in there. So we must see that attachment is something very crucial in our life. So if things start reoccurring, different desires in our mind, then we can already be very conscious to say, okay, I'm not getting attached. I don't want to get attached to this desire. I want to redirect my desire to something else. So that's always the Vedic direction, that we try to go to the root, we understand it, we go to the root, and then we take out the root. We unroot this wrong attachments and we throw it away so that we can channel our desires in the right direction. So the desires and attachment have a very similar, are always interlinked. Now, if you see, the Buddha said, the attachment to desire is the root of our suffering. So sometimes we are even attached to desire. We are attached to want more. And if sometimes we don't have this desire anymore to want something, the attachment to want, then we feel empty. And then we seek other things that give us more desires even. So the conclusion of the Buddha is then usually that, okay, you renounce all desires. But we don't want this. We direct our desires in the right way. We say, we don't just give up the root of all desires, but we desire spiritual desires. We desire things which elevate us in our spiritual life. And these desires are the root, then not only of suffering, but the spiritual desires become the root of happiness, of true happiness. Because we cannot artificially stop desiring. The flow of desires will come. The sense impressions are there. We are within this world. But instead of negating, we are adding, we are enhancing. And this enhancement is elevating us, or is enabling us to go in the right way and get out of this spiral of suffering within this material world. So this is the secret of having the right attachments. And in our normal life, as me as a grihasta, I can see there is in psychology that is called the attachment theory. And the attachment theory in psychology, in German translated Bindungstheorie, is related to a child, to the parents mainly, but also in relationships. And there's a quadrant of this attachment. So when the child, so if we see it's like an axis. So you have the view of yourself and the view of others. So if you view, it's a quadrant. So if you view yourself in a very bad way, you see very low self-esteem, and you view others also as not very good, then actually you're in a good, in a secure position to enter relationships, because you don't have a very high self-esteem. You know, you don't want to lord it over, or you don't. You're ready to receive. You're ready to have an interaction, and then the social bond can happen. If you have a very high self-esteem of yourself, but not of others, then you're always preoccupied with yourself. Can you realize? So sometimes feel like you're just like in your own world. But if you have a very high esteem of others and very bad of yourself, then you become very fearful to associate with others. Fear develops. You cannot really open up because you're afraid of others. And if you, and the fourth one is if you have a positive model. If you have a negative model of yourself and a negative model of others, then you're fearful. If you have a positive model of others and a negative model of yourself, then you become anxious. You're afraid. You're in anxiety when you come in contact with others. So the very interesting thing is that the more in relationships, the more you understand that you make yourself, your self-esteem is actually quite realistic in some way, that you're a little pessimistic, not too pessimistic, but on what you say in a healthy way pessimistic, about yourself and others. You don't see like everybody's so great, Okay, they're also humans. They also have faults, and I also have faults. And I can connect. We can connect, we can communicate. But sometimes we have the other way around, that we say others are so great, they're doing so great, and you're afraid and you're in anxiety to enter in a relationship. And then, or you think like, you're good, you're great, you're amazing, and they're great, and then nothing also really happens because there's always some fear to interact. That you reveal your lower side of yourself, So it's a very interesting way where we can see where is the attachment also happening within yourself, and also in the interaction with children. And one should always reconnect and see what is your relationship with the child. If it is in a healthy way. In a similar way, also it's our relationship with ourselves, with our social environment. If we see that our social environment we are not really able to open up, maybe we should look at ourselves and see, like, am I progressing? Am I viewing myself in a realistic way, or am I just having am I seeing myself as in an exaggerated way, which is completely unnatural? I don't know what happened now. It sounds a little bit exaggerated. It's confirmation, you know. So, in another way also, we can see that if we view others in an exaggerated way, which is not human, which can happen in a spiritual society where we see others are like, they're so saintly and I'm so fallen, I cannot really open up, then you can also have healthy sadhu sangha. So sadhu sangha comes when you're in a humble state of mind, and you can, as I said, humble and meek. Actually, when I grew up, I for a long time did not understand this word meek. What does this word meek mean? And then Akila translated one day, it means bescheiden. I said, that means bescheiden, yeah. So that's, and it's a very nice concept that we don't ask and want so much for ourselves. And in a healthy relationship, we have this attitude. And it might sound just very normal, self-explanatory, but in modern society, we have become so much far away from society, so much digitalized, that our human interactions have become very abnormal. And thus we cannot openly relate. But if we are a healthy human being, if we are a healthy spiritualist actually, then we can start to associate in a very amazing way. But it's actually described that the great saints, the Uttama Adhikaris, those who are completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, they are so absorbed in Krishna that they become asocial. Yeah, they become not social anymore because they're so absorbed in transcendence that they cannot really relate to this world anymore. And you see that sometimes, you know, devotees are very, very deeply immersed. It's like, yeah, they're in another world. And like if you have Gour Babaji in our Guru Parampara here, we have the pictures on the altar. As an example, Gour Babaji, he was adored by the public. They were asking his advice and wanted to speak with him. And he became so upset by this, he said, I want to have my peace, I want to worship Krishna, that he locked himself into the toilet. And then it's like, nobody will come here to disturb me, so that's a good place to be. Thank you. So in a similar way, we can understand, if somebody is very spiritually elevated, they might go in this direction. But we say for ourselves, I mean, we are not in this very high category of being a great spiritualist. We are trying to adopt. And for us, the saving grace, which is the most, which can hold us firm, is the association with devotees. And this we should never give up. And therefore, we should work on ourselves to first become a Madhyamadhikari. Later, some are trying to become a Uttamadhikari, but they're just like, actually just Kanishtas, you know, they cannot also relate. You can very easily swap those two. And so we should try to endeavor to become a true Madhyamadhikari, somebody who knows how to relate. It said a Madhyamadhikari is he who knows how to relate with juniors, he who knows how to relate with the same age, and he who knows how to relate with those who are superior to him. And he who knows this perfect art of sadhu sangha, he can actually continue to become an Uttamadhikari. A Madhyamadhikari can become enabled to become an Uttamadhikari. So the Madhyamadhikari is the stage which we should be striving for, because it is if you stay as a Kanishta Adhikari, means the preliminary devotee, we cannot enter a real devotee association, and this friendship and this society cannot hold us up actually. But if we are in the level of Madhyamadhikari, when we have friendship, when we have normal social interactions, but not only social interactions, but it is in the spiritual interactions where actually revelation of Godhead happens. Because, of course, we have our own vices. Everybody has his problems. But if you yourself open up and know this three arts of dealing with one another, and you become honest within yourself, introspective, and you can open up, then the magic can happen where God realization you can share amongst yourself, and then you protect one another. And you can very rapidly make advancement in devotional service. So if you know the art of sadhusanga, then you will be able to step very much forward in your spiritual life and become a perfect spiritualist, so that in the end you can become an uttamadhikari. Or you can just stay also madhyamadhikari. But our saving grace, whatever might happen, because in reality our life is full of turbulences. And if we might be happening that the wind comes in this direction or that direction, but if we have the association of devotees, spiritualist people, then we will be able to hold our ground. And back to attachments, if we have the association of devotees, these attachments for having spiritual success, for having spiritual fun, spiritual happiness, will be deep within our heart. If we have association with materialists, the desires of material success, of material this, material that, will overgrow the spiritual desires. So therefore it's very important that we have always sadhusanga, association with devotees. And that will save us. And it's also a lot of fun to be in the association of devotees, because they are trying not to be just superficial, you know. Because in the world, there's so much pressure, peer pressure, success pressure, this and that pressure, trying to do or be something that you're actually not. And thus, even in the temple, you should be honest and a person who is real to yourself, and thus you can have real sadhusanga, which can, as I said, enable you to truly make rapid advancement in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes, Sanjay, Prabhu.
Speaking about attachment, we can also, if we are not careful, we can also be hung up on a certain conception of reality instead of being interested in reality itself. Having some idea that this is how the book is telling, and I have faith in that. So, what is the difference between being faithful in a healthy way and being faithful in a dogmatic, stubborn way? Which one kind of faith will bring me towards the ultimate truth. If I have faith that this book is true and I practice accordingly, then I will get there. But like, how does faith become unhealthy in terms of, like, I believe that this is true?
It becomes healthy in a way when you practice it, when you adapt it in your practical everyday life, and you see yourself progressing in it, and you see also others that it's working. That's a spiritual experiment, what we say. That's the scientific experiment. So this is what we're doing, and becomes unhealthy if we are running against the wall again and again, and see it's not working, but we are stubbornly trying to force it. We're stubbornly trying to be something that we are not. And that means that we are actually we must roll back and must see, okay, there is something, some attachment or something in my life which is holding me back, that I must first let go of, so that I can actually advance. And sometimes it's very small things in our life which are holding us back, but we cannot just continue further. So life gives us different situations where we will be able to overcome this. Or if you don't do it voluntarily, one point or another, life will come and just boing, slap you. Yeah. And it's actually very good, and you can be grateful for that. And so in one way I say, spiritual life is natural. It just happens, like Charya is not trying to grow, he's growing by himself. It will happen. You will become an adult. We will become a spiritual adult one day. We need to be patient and practice. And this is another thing that some are so impatient. We want it now. Of course, it's good to, Prabhupada said, you can become a pure devotee in one lifetime, you can become a pure devotee in 1 second. It is possible. But we must be patient. And it means to be realistic. We have a mountain of desires. It's said that over millions of lives we have been within this material world, and our subtle body is stuffed with so many desires and impressions and traumas and from so many lives. And if we're acting now, we're thinking like within 1 week, 1 year, we will get rid of all of these. It's very difficult, almost impossible. We have our Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means the karma which is manifested. That means your body. And your body is your psychophysical nature. You're some way limited, you know, the way we speak, the culture we grew up, we're limited in our way. So we cannot just jump over it. And if we try to jump over it, it becomes a hindrance in our life. We cannot really be natural in some way. So we must understand, okay, this is my conditions, and I try to elevate myself, and little by little. Therefore, it's said we have the yoga ladder. We are stepping one step after the other so we can go upward. Yeah? Charu, you have a question? Okay, you have the microphone. Somebody else. Okay, you have a question. He knows how to do it.
Thank you.
Can't say words.
You mentioned two concepts that to me sounded controversial. The first was being natural, and the second is we have to work hard, and there's a long way to go. I feel the most beautiful moments we experienced were those who were natural, where we didn't work hard, they just happened. We let go of all the scriptures, we were just there. So I feel a lot of talk here is about we have to work hard, it's a long way to go, but I feel this rubs first the joy of it, and second, this purity of just being.
Yeah, very good point.
Would you highlight this, please?
Thank you for the question. Very good question. Yeah, maybe we can switch off the other one, because always it's reverberating. Yeah, it's very interesting. Very good question that we have. At one point, we're trying to be natural. In another way, we're asked to work hard or endeavor a lot. And then the joy and the easiness of spiritual life sometimes becomes lost. And we're like, yeah, I must try to be a pure devotee. And so I say in spiritual life, or what I learned when I grew up also as a bhakta in the temple, is that whenever you first come to the temple, it is, or in spiritual life, we have the old habits which we must get rid of. That means habits of being like nasty, being this, being that, all these material habits that you have which are not actually very spiritual. So to get rid of those, it's sometimes quite some endeavor, some hard work. And then you're associating of devotees, and after some time it becomes completely natural to be a gentle, very soft and sweet person. It becomes very natural. Some already are before they come in association, but some they need some little endeavor, just as an example. So we are endeavoring in a certain way, and then once we reach the state where we become gentle devotees, then it becomes completely natural. Then we can become natural. When we are in as Prabhu said, when we're in a crazy state of mind, we cannot become natural. And if we become natural, it becomes crazy. Like there were a policeman stopped in a truck to 3 ladies which were sitting on the roof naked. And asked, what are you doing? We got inspiration from within. God told us to go naked now on the truck and ride through the city. They're like, what are you doing? And this is not God which inspires them. It's the voice within which might also tell you some nonsense. So if you're not purified, you cannot really hear the voice of God. So in this way, in spiritual life, we need to endeavor to purify ourselves, but then at the same time be natural. And being natural, that we let go these qualities of a gentle devotee. And the other qualities which are not the gentle devotee, we restrain them. That means the natural. And which in some point it's called sadhana bhakti. So sadhana bhakti means the bhakti, the devotion or love of Godhead in practice. We are practicing this, which is in the beginning a little unnatural, but it's actually the most natural thing of the soul. But we have become so unnatural that we need to practice to become natural again. Make sense? It's like the example is being given like a chicken. No, it's not an eagle. An eagle, you know, a big eagle has big wings, huge, can fly, and they're chickens. They're very small. They cannot fly. You know, they're like beep, 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 beep. So it happened once that a big eagle was flying over a chicken nest. And then he dropped an egg, boom, and it fell amongst the chicken. And then the chicken thought, oh, nice egg we have here. And then sat on it, and then, boop, the small eagle came out. So the small eagle came out and thought, oh, there's my sisters, brothers, and mothers. I'm also a chicken. So let me try to be a chicken. Beep, 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 beep. But didn't really feel natural, you know. It had an identity crisis. I'm not part of that. So then it's trying to it, and then at one point, the guru teacher, the spiritual master, is like, hey, you're not a chicken. You're an eagle. You can fly. No, I cannot fly. I never tried flying. I don't have this ability. No, you can fly. And then it pushes it to the edge, and then of a little hill or something, and then pushes it. You can fly. No, I cannot. And pushes him, and then it's like, oh, I'm desperate. And I can fly. So that's the analogy that we see. That what is the real nature? So we're trying to be chickens, no? Beep, 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 being part of this. Yeah, very good, Chara, thank you. So, but the real self is something else. And once you are a devotee, you can actually open your wings and be natural. Yeah? And you're flying on this. And as you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or other examples, you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a very nice book because it describes a great saint of the 15th century, an incarnation of Krishna, being completely natural devotee. And he's such an ecstatic natural devotee, how they interact, it's very sweet, very nice. And he's in complete ecstasy. That's like the ultimate. He's already in this uttamadhikari, where you say this unsocial devotee, you know. But he's still complete, he's very sweet, he's very natural, and he's just, you know, anything, if he sees a cloud, it reminds him of Krishna, because Krishna is described to a dark, thundering cloud, in the monsoon season, the color of his hue, of his bodily hue. And he becomes so ecstatic just seeing a cloud. And now he cries in tears, Krishna, where are you? Please let me be with you. So that's like spontaneous love. That's what we call bhakti, where the river naturally flows. Another example of how it's said that when this nature flows naturally, the attachment flows, your love flows naturally towards Krishna, is given by the prayers of Queen Kunti, where she states, only those who are materially impoverished, exhausted, materially. Can you say the whole verse? Somebody knows the whole verse by heart in English? Yeah, try. Yeah.
My dear Lord, your Lordship are very... Okay. My dear Lord, your Lordship is very difficult to approach. But those who are materially exhausted can chant your name sincerely.
Yeah, so that's the point.
Can address you sincerely.
And then the next verse says, let my desires flow towards you like the rivers flowing towards the ocean. So it means that once we are materially impoverished, these desires, then our self can naturally flow towards Krishna. And the more our desires are flowing towards Krishna, the more we will be able to become natural. And once you are spiritual natural, like when you're in this temple and you do devotional activities, you get a feeling, it's something nice, it's natural. It's very sweet, isn't it? And you feel like, yeah, it's me, it's actually my real me, you know? And that becomes more and more the more you practice spiritual life. Is that okay? Or you have more questions? I think you want to say something more. Please.
I cannot but feel a hint of wanting to change someone, as in there's something wrong in a human being and they need to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we see this a lot with kids, where parents are always trying to fix the kid in a way. So we would like to be natural, and we speak about accepting being natural, while in fact we fear someone who is truly natural in a way which we're not, because they might act in a strange, maybe dangerous way. Well, it doesn't have to be dangerous, but it seems antisocial or strange. So I cannot but feel this difference between truly being natural and accepting that, versus trying to fix someone in a subtle way, to make them more quote-unquote spiritual. You know? this is why I feel like this aspect of true acceptance is still to be worked on.
So, but how do you see then that the self, what do you see as the self? What is the natural self?
It is what it is, the person's natural inclination, without labeling right or wrong.
So if you have if a person who has, you understand, we have material desires, we understand that we are not a pure natural being. We have impurities. Everybody understands this. So would you say that he should live out his natural impurities?
So the word impurities also has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
So desires are the true reason why we are here.
Yes.
You're here because your parents desired something. Otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So the desire is not the negative connotation of impurity. It is our nature.
I'm not saying this, but you know what? What are impurities? There are 6 enemies of the soul which are described as lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, envy. So those 6 things are this which are hindering us from being natural. You know? So would you say somebody who is envious, who is lusty, who is mad, to live out themselves?
Given the fact that we are all, even in this room, people who have all these traits.
We all have them to some extent.
Right.
Yeah.
So, given the fact that we do, this has to be the natural nature of a human being, that they have these traits. So I just sense that calling them impurities or sin or the evil part is only causing a human being to feel bad about himself or herself.
But not helping.
And this doesn't help, to feel bad about yourself.
Okay.
So when we face these things, that we have them, they're part of who we are, and we focus on what, as you said, on the beauty of devotion, on love and service, then these will automatically transform themselves into a useful energy, rather than being something fearful, something negative we want to suppress.
Yeah. So yes, but we understand, as you said, that we have this beauty, this natural thing, the love within ourselves, which everybody has. And you say there's this human traits, the 6 enemies, which are completely normal, but which are binding ourselves, which we want to naturally transfer to spirituality. And that's just what we are trying to do. That's what I'm saying. We are trying to be natural devotees, which means still we need to practice. It means we don't need to put fires. Like in spiritual life, we say if you give food to the fire, you won't extinguish the fire. If you put more oil inside, you won't extinguish. You just don't keep, like, Christianity is a lot about suppressing the desires. You put water on top of it, you cover it up, something, you hide it. But that's not the solution. The solution is not to give any more wood into it. It will stop burning by itself. Yeah. So, and you give fire to those desires and those traits of the human self, which are spiritual, which are full of love, full of devotion, and naturally you'll become a spiritual, beautiful human being. But of course, we all, as a human being, we all have a mind. We all have these enemies to some extent, and we have all these vasanas, impressions, traumas, experience from different lives, and they're all binding us. And we naturally are trying, therefore the word natural is there, that we're not trying to suppress it. We're trying to engage in spiritual activity, and thus naturally we get more and more attachment towards Krishna. And that's the thing that we learn, we hear about Krishna, we chant about Krishna, we glorify him, and naturally we see like, wow, that's something very beautiful. We don't need to have all this material, feed all this material craziness. We can feed the spiritual ecstasies, and the spiritual ecstasies, it says, it will overgrow them more and more. It's like, it says in the beginning of spiritual life, you're in an ocean, and you're clung on a little piece of wood, trying to survive in an ocean of material desires and material environments, desires and attachments. And there's like spirituality is like a little point. But the more you engage in spiritual life, you're like sitting in a boat. And then you feel like, okay, there's some safety in my spiritual life, some environment. And then material desires become, the huge ocean becomes smaller like a lake. And then the more you go, it becomes, spirituality takes more and more over. And in the end, at prema, not prema, before prema, at bhava, you have the understanding that there is still material world somewhere. It is existing, but I'm not attached to it. So that's the ultimate goal. Whereas things are there, but my desires, my river of desires flows naturally towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah? Is that good?
It was always good. You said a lot of...
No, it's just we need to clarify, because sometimes in words, it's not, the feeling might not, or the understanding might not be completely clear.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe Balaram Pran and then Gopi Gita Mataji. Thank you. It's nice to have a spiritual discussion. Things become clear and natural, yeah.
Thank you. I think the most important point you mentioned, that there is this misunderstanding nowadays for what spirituality is called, and we think it's killing of desire. But according to our philosophy, let's put it in this way, desire cannot be killed because it's the nature of the soul to have desire.
Inherent of the self, yeah.
Yeah. And Bhaktiananda Tirtha Maharaj, he keeps giving the example because he was in America, and for a long time everybody, all kind of people coming and be natural and take off your top and whatever. So he said like, what do you mean by be natural? Like, did somebody tell maybe like Hitler or Stalin be natural? Because they acted according to their nature, and they did hideous things, like really ugly things. So like, I sometimes wonder, why is this in the Bhagavad Gita, the divine and demonic natures? It's obvious, more or less. Or in the Bhagavatam there are the 26 qualities of a human being. So it seems like we don't know anymore what's the qualities of a human being. So yeah, somehow like these 6 enemies you mentioned, somehow or the other they became in our nature. And part of it, yeah, we have to be honest with myself. I have these 6 enemies, and I cannot just within a night get rid of them. So again, our process is to engage them in the service of the Lord.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, one thing is the modern misunderstanding, is to say, of just being natural and the desire to have no violence in this way. As ourselves, there is some practice, there is some understanding. We need to distinguish, these are enemies, these are friends, and we feed the right ones. And there is a certain process while we're doing. But it's not in another way where we see from the Christianity where we are burned by it. We see like that it's forced, it's like suffocate, no lust, no this, no that, else you will die, you will go to hell and rot forever, It's not that extreme. And so in history we can see that the next generation, especially in America, everybody says, okay, just be natural, be yourself, And if you're yourself, that means spirituality, which is also pseudo-spirituality. It's not real spirituality. So we must understand what is the real self. And the real self, like I said, therefore I tried to explain the story of the eagle. We must understand that we are an eagle, and to enhance these qualities of being a spiritual soul. And then we feed those, but we just don't feed anymore the material desires. We naturally go over to the other side, to being a completely natural spiritualist. Which in the beginning is some sadhana, it's some practice. And it's completely natural that it is some practice. Yes, Gopi Gita Mataji?
Sorry, it's a very interesting topic of being natural.
Yeah.
I think on a practical way, coming from an Indian background, and when I entered into the temple 20 years ago in London, and for example, someone came up to me and said, "Hey Mataji, how can I serve you?" But the tone was more like, "Hey, you get out of the way," I was like, "All right, huh? You're calling me mother?" But like, and there was a lot of these sort of contacts, I was like, what's wrong with these people? And but the temple is amazing, but what's wrong here? You know, it was like a strange thing in my head where I couldn't really put the two together, that there was something amazing going on here in terms of the worship, but there was an unnatural way of being. I think for yourself, it's easier to be natural because you were born in a movement. So I don't know how old are you, 29, something, this many years of finding a way, right? But for others, like also in that way, I grew up with Vaishnavism in the background, but 20 years back, at least in London, it was a little like a turnover of people who adopted the ways of our practice, and it didn't seem at all natural. Yeah. So in that way, it was just a reflection to say, and it was an earlier question I had in my head, sometimes, as you raise this point, it's easier to be natural as a devotee, but sometimes we also have maybe barriers, what you say, in the way to behave, you know, like even how we dress, you know, or this, if you turned up for class in jeans and whatever else,
shorts.
You know, shorts, or especially in winter, yeah, or something. You know, so what would you say to this point of that, of course, ultimately we aspire to be natural, and one definitely sees it, you know, when you get more senior, because you spoke about this, you know, when there was Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, for example, very funny, but very spiritual. You know, he really just laid it on basically how it was, but completely himself. But us in-betweenies, you know, sometimes, what would you say that sometimes we fall into trying to be in?
Yeah, the interesting thing is, thank you very much, we fall into both directions. Sometimes we become too natural, in some way, in the way that we become too leger in German. Leger is, I don't know how to say in English, become too lenient, become too lenient, and we forget what's actually, what do we really want. And in other ways, also in the spiritual life, it's very easily that we turn over to this unnaturalness, especially because we have such a high spiritual goal, we have such a high spiritual standard, and then we try to follow the rules, and we're like, and it's a very individual thing, you know. Everybody goes through this in your own spiritual life, where you say like, to hell with all these rules and regulations, I do whatever I want. And then to the other extreme, where you are so stiff by it, and you say, yes, I must say yes, hello Mataji, how can I serve you? But just, actually you don't really feel like it, you know, you feel like, you know, I just want to do something. So it's a balance which we constantly need to adjust. And even, as you said myself, I grew up, and it's natural, but I say to myself, it's, even though growing up, I have been myself many years very unnatural. And therefore it's very important that we reflect, that what I was saying, what are our attachments? What is that which I'm actually attached to? And you realize them, and you understand them, and you say like, how am I feeding those attachments? Am I getting rid of them? I don't want to feed them anymore, don't give them any more desires, but actually want something else. And also your behavior, how are you actually behaving? How are you interacting with others? And also one very important thing, which is, I think, one of the most essentials of how to avoid this, is that you have one or two very good friends to whom you can open up. And you talk about this, about just being you, where you can be just yourself. And you need to have this peer association, which is mostly very difficult, because to a peer you are on the same level. You cannot tell him something, or you don't just subordinate, you're asking questions, that's easy. But if somebody to whom you open up and you are just yourself, that's very difficult. And if you have somebody like this in your life, you can be very lucky. And you should find a person where you can just open up and deal with it. I think this is very important, that everybody can become very natural and understand what is my real nature and how can I be natural. And then it's like spiritual life is easy and sublime. You know, it is easy. It is very nice. We just need to adapt to it. We need to cling to it. Or maybe it's not the right word. Let's say we just flow with it. Yeah, we flow with it. And due time, of course, we will learn how to balance things. You know, it's natural. We will go in the beginning from one extreme to the other. Now we will be unbalanced, and then we'll balance in due course of time and have the right balance where we can be in the right position, where we can really honestly serve the Lord. And therefore I'm saying this, like, I want to emphasize this naturalness, that we really naturally, from a whole heart, go towards Krishna. Krishna, I want you. My desire is you. And how big is actually this real, honest desire to understand God, to understand the true self, the love of Godhead. And and we feed it. We should feed it more and more by hearing Krishna Katha, by being in association with devotees, and having spiritual fun. Hare Krishna. Sanjay Prabhu? Yeah.
Is it unavoidable that we go through these extremes to some extent, or do you think that a person may also come to the process and just be natural from the beginning? I'm wondering because in one sense, like, you can just go with the flow. It is there, and Krishna is in your heart, and he always gives advice that this is how you have to do, this is how you should not do.
It's very individual, and one should not judge oneself also, that I cannot do it. How are others doing it so easy? For me it's so difficult. I think it's something also which develops over lifetimes. For some it is, we have the prarabdha karma. Some have a very active mind which is like pushing you here, pushing you there, and some have a mind which is very peaceful, and you can, you have a good, somehow a good mental body which is easier for spiritual life. So it is, and therefore it's very important that we ourselves don't judge ourselves too much and say like, oh, why am I not like this? And trying to be like the other person. So just take your time. And sometimes those who go through harder extremes in this life, they become more honest and sincere in the way, because they needed to fight a lot. The others who were already in the beginning very easy, it's like, it's too easy. They're just like, well, I don't care anymore, They just throw it aboard, and they just to go after all material, sensual desires that you want to go for, So everything is good. Whatever you got in your life, just take it right up and go in the right direction. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gour Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Thank you very much.
Jai. 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 Jai.
Jai.
Just one thing came to my mind from Maharaj when he was in Yoradesh last time. He mentioned, do the right thing with the right attitude. So he was telling, if you do the right thing with the wrong attitude, that will not help us. So both is very important here. The right thing with the right attitude.
Right thing with the right attitude. Oh, I've done many times the right thing with the wrong.
I've done many times the wrong thing with the right attitude.
That's a right attitude.